Last time we created our very first app in only 10 minutes. This time we're going to make it look good. Last time we made a mobile phone app that was compatible with Apple, Android and Windows Phone in under 10 minutes using Phonegap Build. This was completely free, but there was only one problem. The app was very basic. In this episode, we're going to make it look good. And to do that, we're going to utilize jQuery Mobile. jQuery Mobile is a free scripting system for creating mobile apps. With simple markup, it can create animated menus, pop-ups, dialog boxes, everything you would expect to see in a native mobile phone app. In fact, your same set of source code, like before, can go to Android, iOS, and Windows Phone, and no one will know that it's not native. Now, it can be daunting, but I'm going to lay this out in a way that you can follow along, and if that's still too hard, I'm going to have another option for you at the end. When we last left off, we had created our very first app, and we did it under 10 minutes, and we lived up to every promise we made in that video description. Now, the problem with that was it was a very unsophisticated and simple app. And in this video, we're hoping to take it to the next level and make it actually look good and have some functionality. And to do that, we're going to use something called jQuery Mobile. Now, the problem with jQuery Mobile is it's not accessible at all to a beginner. Not only do you need to know HTML, but the way just to download it is particularly tricky and it's going to throw a lot of people off. So we will do the download, and you might think that you want to go to the download builder, but I don't think this is going to be of use. If you see here, we've got all these different options and most people aren't going to have any clue what that is. We're going to do it in our own custom way, and we're going to start by downloading just the normal zip file. After you download the zip and extract it, you're going to have all of these files here, and once again there is a myriad of files and it's so easy to get lost. Never mind, this video will guide you through in an easy to understand way. So previously, this was the structure of our app. We had an icon, we had a single HTML file, and then we had a configuration file. The first thing we're going to do is to add two new folders. The first one called JS for JavaScript, the other one called CSS for Cascading Style Sheet. Pretty much any website you come across on the internet is going to have JavaScript and CSS. JavaScript being how to make things dynamically happen on the page, whether it's data validation or animations or anything else interactive, and CSS, how the page is styled. Let's come back to our uncompressed files, and we're going to take a couple of files from here, but only the ones that we need. So the first one we're going to do is the JavaScript file, jQuery.mobile.1.4.5. We're going to make a copy of this. We're going to come into JavaScript and paste it in. We're going to come back to CSS. And this time we're going to take the other one that has the same name, but you can see it's a cascading style sheet. Once again, we're going to copy that, come into CSS, paste it in. There's one more JavaScript file that we need, and it's a little bit buried. We're going to come into demos and then down to JS, and we want the jQuery file. So let's make a copy of that and also put it in our JavaScript folder. Once again, we're using Notepad++. It's a free text editor. It highlights all our different code and helps us out. And we're going to come up to the head. We're going to tell our document that these other files exist and to reference them. So to do this, we're going to type in script source equals JS, our folder, jQuery, and we're immediately going to copy this and also add our second one, and this one was jQuery.mobile-1.4.5. Excellent. Now that's two of the three files done. The next one we need to do is to add a link to the style sheet. So above both of those, we're going to add in our reference. Fix our typo. You might discover from watching this that I am terrible at typing. I am the typo king, but not to worry, we will get there. Okay, there's one other thing that we need for it to play nicely, and that is to set some metadata. So you don't actually need a title. You won't be able to see it on a mobile phone app. So we're going to delete that line and then add in 2 more tags. Okay, we are good to go. Both of those ensure that the sizing and the scrolling and everything like that play nice with a smaller mobile phone screen. So let's save this and come back to our folder and double click on index to open it. We can see that the styling has already changed because that style sheet has been applied, and clicking it still has the same functionality as always. Now a nice shortcut we're going to do to make it look like a mobile phone is to hit F12. And then up here we're going to click this button, and then we can set it to look like a tall screen like a mobile phone. We can change the size, and this is much more indicative of how the final thing will look. Alright, time to delve into the documentation, but we're only going to cherry pick what we need to get this working in an efficient way. Let's come back to their website and then come to demos, and then the top one for the latest stable version. And then we're going to come down to pages. We don't have any pages set up yet. We're just going to click on the default link. And what we're going to do is to scroll down and put in the one for a multi-page structure. So we copy from body all the way down to body. We switch back to our text editor. We do the same thing, body to body. We paste it right over the top. And now when we hit save and come back to our file, we can hit refresh, and all of a sudden we're seeing the new content. So let's have a look at what it does. If we come to here, we can click and it animates through to that, and then we can come back to this one and we get back to the first page. So let's have a look at what we're seeing on the screen and compare it to the code. Firstly, we have a header for our page, then we have our content, and then we have our footer. So switching back to Notepad++, you can see that everything is nicely commented, and to make this a little bit easier, I would suggest putting in a lot of spaces in between these just to make it really clear until you know what you're doing, where the pages start and end. So here's our first page. This page is called Foo. We've got our header, or up the top it says Foo. We've got our main part of the page with all of the text and our link, and then we've got our page footer down the bottom. Then we have our second page, and this page is called Bar. We've got our header once again, our main content, and then our footer. So just to show that we know what's happening, let's copy the second page, everything from top to bottom, come down, paste it in, once again, add some spaces just to make it really obvious, and then edit these to reflect the fact that it's the third page. We will need a new ID here. And then the other thing we're going to do is to come up to the top and copy and paste our link and send it to our new page. Okay, let's save that one. Come back to Chrome and refresh. And we can see our new link has come in. We can still get to our first page and come back. And now we can get to our new page. And we can see it's the third like we added, and then we can come back and everything is working perfectly. Now it's my personal preference that the default fade animation is not really the best one. What I prefer is the slide one, but I'll show you what ones are available and you can pick what you like, and then we will apply it. We come back to our documentation. We're going to come to transitions, and these are all the different ones that we can do. And we can get a preview by clicking on any of them. So we've got this flip one. My personal preference is to have the slide one. That's most like an app. That's the one I'm going to work with, and here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to view the source here, and all you note is that it's been added to our link to have a data transition and then a name. So we find our one that we want, which is slide, and we copy and paste. Got to double click to be able to copy this. So we shall copy this and then come back to here, and let's add it straight after our link. And then on these pages where we have our back button, let's add it there as well. Save the page, switch back, hit refresh, and now we have a transition. There's only one problem. When we click on this, it still animates the same direction. It will be much more intuitive if it animated back the other direction. So let's add that in. On the ones where we want the animation to be in reverse, we simply add the following text. And let's make a copy of that and put it on our other one. Save, back to Chrome, refresh, and see if it worked. If we animate this way, we animate back. That is much more intuitive. You should start to see the gist of how jQuery Mobile works. Basically, all the fancy stuff is done for us. We just have to label things with different tags, and then the commands will be applied as we want. Now, it's not particularly efficient every time we add a new page and link to have that text. So let's look at a way to set a global preference, and that will automatically apply whichever transition you want to all of your pages that you add in, unless you override it manually like we just have. So the first thing we're going to do is to delete all of these so we don't have any clashes later on. Which we've now done. We've left our data direction reverse. Unfortunately, that one needs to stay and be added each time we want it to be a back button. And then we're going to come up to the top and we're going to add in a really handy script. After jQuery loads, we're going to put in a script so that when jQuery Mobile loads, it overrides that with our setting. So here's what we're going to type. Okay, there it is. This is a jQuery command saying when the document is ready, and that comes after we load in jQuery. We say on the event that mobile init takes place, and that is set up later on by this. We have a function for jQuery Mobile to set the default page transition variable as slide. Let's save this and test it out. Okay, excellent. That has worked really well. Just to make sure it wasn't a fluke, let's put in a different type of transition. Let's try slide fade, and that is working just how we like. I'm going to put it back because I prefer just the plain slide, but you can pick whichever one you want and just put in the keyword that it tells you from the documentation. The next thing that I don't like is the page footer not being at the foot. Fortunately, this is another simple fix. Anytime that we want the footer to stay down the bottom, we simply add a tag to that section of the code. So back in our document, we can see we have our data role footer for this div, and what we're going to add there is data position fixed. And I'm going to copy and paste that to my other pages. Save it, let's load the file, and we can see our footer has gone down to the bottom for each of our pages. Alright, this is starting to work really well, but we want to clean this up. We want to improve the clarity and the functionality of this. So on a website, you would have a link because you have a cursor to help access it. But what you'll find is on a mobile app, you'll find we have big buttons that we need to press because our fingers are a lot larger than a mouse cursor. So let's style these links to be exactly like that. First thing I'm going to do is to get rid of the paragraph text surrounding them because that would also be unlikely in an app. I'm just leaving the links behind. Unfortunately, there's something built in like usual, and that is adding a class, and all the styling for a button will be done automatically. And you can see automatically our code has been changed to look like a button, and that looks much more like a mobile app already. We might also do this on the other screens, so where we have our reverse buttons, we can paste in the same code. Save that and double check that it worked. Excellent, this is looking great. On our main page we don't need a back button, but on these other ones we do, and it doesn't really make sense to have it in the middle. Typically you would have it up somewhere in the corner or maybe down the bottom here. So that's what we'll do next. What we're going to do is to take all of our code for the link, our A tag, we're going to cut it, we're going to come up to the header, and we're going to come before the bar and paste it in. Now it doesn't make sense to have all of this text, so I'm going to replace this with just a left arrow. We're going to save it and see how that looks. Okay, we can see that when the other page loads, we have a back button here. You could have the word back, you can have an image, you can have whatever you want. Now that we've got a good system, let's come back to our source code and scale this out to have around 5 pages. So the first bit of tidying up we're going to do is to change our front page. Now I don't like it being called foo, that's just for the example, so I'm going to call it menu instead. And then what I'm going to do is in the links that go back to it, I'm going to make sure they point to menu instead of foo, since it no longer exists. And it's a good idea to set up things like this before you copy and paste and make multiple pages, otherwise you're going to have to do it over and over again later on. Now instead of foo here, we'd probably have the title of your app. So for this one, I'm just going to put Teaching Tech Test App, and I'll fix all of my typos. Save it, double check it. Good idea to do this frequently. If you have a bug, you can then undo a couple of steps and fix it. Okay, that's excellent. And let's imagine that we had an app actually doing something, and we'll name our other pages accordingly. So let's call our second page Gallery. Let's call our third page Contact. And we'll change our links up the top here to suit. Okay, that looks more like it. Everything's still working. You can see here I haven't changed the title, so let's double check those. Now that we know everything is working nicely, let's make some copies of pages. So let's copy all of the third page, put in a bunch of spaces, paste, a bunch of spaces, paste. And just so we don't get confused, let's change this here and this here. And then change the names of these as well. So this one I might want to be a settings page. This is my last one. And this page here, I'll make an upload page. Now we don't have any links to these, so let's copy and paste these 2 links. Let's save that and do our final test. Okay, we have our first page, a contact page, we can see that this is correct here, but once again we've forgotten to change our page title, so let's do that quickly. Excellent, we have the makings of an app here. Let's do 2 more things before we close this lesson up. The first one is to have subpages. So at the moment, all of these are 1 page deep. So we go to the gallery, and the only way we can go is back to the main page. Let's have another subpage underneath the gallery. To do this is pretty simple. We're simply going to copy all of our page here, put in a bunch of spaces to make it clear, and then let's call this one sub gallery, just so we know what it's talking about. And instead of going straight back to the menu, we'll get it to go back to the gallery, and we'll change the title, and let's put in some text. And the only thing we need to do is to add a link on our gallery page to go to the sub gallery. So everything else works like we would expect. When we click on the gallery, we can either go back, or we can click on our sub gallery, and that scrolls correctly to the right. When we click on this, it takes us back to the gallery, click again, back to the main menu. Excellent. Let's look at one more feature. In jQuery Mobile, there is a vast range of different features, and it can be a little bit daunting, but generally if you look through this demonstration page for what you're after, you can go to the example and copy what you want to do, and it shouldn't be too hard to input it and get it working in your page. What we're going to do for our example is to come and put in a panel. So let's come to our panel demo, and then we'll have a look at what they do. That looks nice. Notice if we click over here, it closes, or if we click the close button there, it also closes. And then you can see here we have a control for it, and it's telling us it needs to go underneath the data role page, but before the header, content, and footer. So let's copy and paste this and do exactly what it said. Let's add one on our gallery page. You know, it goes after this bit here. So put in a couple of spaces, but not as many as the other times. I'm going to put in a little bit of text here. And once again, we have an ID. So to make this panel open, all we need to do is to have a link that points to that ID. So I'm actually going to put it up in the upper right section of the header. If we do it on the other side of H1, it should put it on the right. And I'm going to link that to the matching text here, my panel. Let's save that. Come to our app and refresh. We load our gallery page, we have our button here, and our panel opens. Now the only other thing we want to do is probably make it open from the right, because that's where we have the button. So let's look up how to do that. We'll come back to here, and there should be some options. Come back up to the top, and we can see it says right panel examples, and that's exactly what we want there. So it says we need to specify data position right. So that's what we'll do. So on our panel, we'll insert our code, and let's fix up our button here. Let's give it a plus, bit of text, refresh the page, and see if it works. Excellent. So you can see here by looking through all of the different options, we should be able to add in lots of different content. If you want to add in images and things like that, that's just straight HTML. So you can look up W3 Schools or any other site to learn how to do that. Trial and error. Make sure you're saving a lot, so if something goes wrong, you can undo. And once you're happy with your app, you are ready to upload. So we do that the same way we did before. We make sure that this is saved. We then come to our app. We drag a box around everything, and we're going to add it to a zip. I think this was version 3. Let's come back to Phonegap Build. I've already logged in. I'm going to update my code. Let's pick my zip file and upload. We can see it's rebuilt. It's 1 minute ago, so we can come on our mobile device and use the QR code scanner and then install the app and see how it's running. The app has been successfully installed. Let's try and tap on some of the buttons. We'll start with the gallery button, and it goes smoothly to the next screen, and then the sub page. We can go back. We can open our panel, click on the unselected part, and it will close it. Back to the start. Contact page working well, upload page working well, settings page working well. Everything nice and smooth, everything as it should be. Big success. Now I hope you were able to follow along, because just a small investment in time once again has netted us a really good result. I have tried to make this video as easy to understand as possible, but in case you needed a bit of a head start and it was just a little bit too steep for you, I have another option. Down in the description below is a link to download the zip file with everything you've seen in this video ready to go and modified to create your first app. There's only one catch. I'm asking just $1 for it. If you don't want to pay the $1, you can go through the video and follow it step by step. If you do want to pay the $1, that's a pretty good option, because you'll probably make it back on the first sale of your app down the track. Stay tuned, because in future episodes we're going to expand our app even further. We're going to look at plugins that we can add to utilize the native functionality of the phone. We're also going to look at how we can generate an encrypted key, so therefore we have a license to publish our apps to the Google Play Store and Apple iTunes. See you then. G'day, it's Michael again. If you liked the video, then please click like. If you want to see more content like this in future, click subscribe, and make sure you click on the bell to receive every notification. If you really want to support the channel and see exclusive content, become a patron. Visit my Patreon page. See you next time.